Hello, welcome to Revelator Alpha. Hope you're all well. So this is a real impromptu live session here on a Sunday, just gone lunchtime. I've been out and about riding this morning, doing a few errands, shooting some video as well. But the heavens have opened here, and I thought I'd come and do a live show to discuss a couple of topics. A couple of things came to mind while I was out riding this morning. I thought that'd be an interesting topic. But I suppose, first of all, I've got to apologise for being a little bit later than advertised. I said I'll be on at 1 o'clock. It's nearly 1:15. I was going to try with this new camera. Well, actually, it's a camera I use all the time, but I never use it as a webcam. So I thought, I'd just quickly use that one, a bit more better quality, right? And as soon as I connected it, it wouldn't feed. So for some reason, this camera GoPro 8 with this media mod thing is not showing video. I have no idea why. So that's why it took me a while to realize I couldn't get it to work, and I had to revert back to my old camera, which I'm on now. So maybe there's a lesson in there for all of us. Listen, I was out and about this morning and a little bit yesterday on the bike as well. And I thought, do you know what? The weather's pretty. I mean, I'm looking out my window now, and it is absolutely teeming down. It was like that this morning, absolutely teeming down. And I thought, you know what? This will make a good video to go out and talk about the struggles of riding this time of year or riding through winter as well. So that's essentially what I've done. So that video, I've got to edit it and everything and come up with a piece it all together to make it watchable, I suppose. But that'll be coming out next week. So I thought, I'd come in and discuss a couple of things with you guys. Anyway, so I'm going to open up the Q&A session, a broad topic today. There's no motorcycle news on this show, as it were. This is just a broad topic, just a bit of fun, bit of light-hearted banter, as it were. Oh, hello. I think a mini tornado is just hitting my garden. There we go. This is live from my shed, as it were. And yeah, crikey, that was weird. I've encountered, this is a big tangent, really. I've encountered the last couple of weeks little mini tornadoes where I've lived. Now, whether they're actually tornadoes or not, but all of a sudden, just sudden microbursts of wind, and then blows things over, or trees and branches break and all that sort of stuff. Then it disappears again. I've literally just had one just now. It's blown all my chairs all over the garden, and now it's disappeared again. Very weird, but there we go. That's weather for you. So listen, I'm going to open it up. I'm going to dig into the comments later on. So if you got any comments, put them down there. Join in the chat if you're going to watch it later. As always, you can show your support for the channel with the live chats and super chats and super stickers and super thanks and all that sort of stuff. You can go to the website. There's a link there as well to help support the channel and help it grow and everything. Obviously, I need support now for a new camera. Or something, because this has gone completely Pete Tong, as we would say. I'm sure it's a settings thing, or it's a firmware hardware thing. And, it's technology. It's technology that, so that's a good thing to start off this live show with, isn't it? Technology. And all the little foibles of it and all the little quirks, and then all of a sudden it's supposed to work and then it doesn't work. And you think, what the hell's going on? So whether it's on your bike, in your car, whatever, that's one thing that knocks me off sometimes is that you've got something that's supposed to work, a bit of technology that's supposed to work, whether it's on your bike, whether it's a light, a brake, I don't know, your clutch, whatever. This could be a Harley Davidson thing, this could be an Indian thing, this could be Suzuki, Kawasaki, whatever. It doesn't make any difference. In your car, you could be driving a Ford or something like that, and it's something supposed to work and it doesn't. Or there's supposed to be, a quick accessory or a quick something that you're supposed to put on and it's supposed to work flawlessly, and it doesn't. And you're just left there thinking, well, what a waste of time that was. What a waste of time. What a waste of money. And what a waste of any hope that you had that this would be, a good thing for you. Something's... So I'm just knocking a box beneath my leg there. Anyway, listen. So this is joining the chat. Let us know. anything you want to talk about. As always, you can always subscribe to the channel, leave comments, so ask any questions that you want as well. But as I say, you can show your support down there for the super chats and all that sort of stuff. You look at the bottom of the comment section, and you can add it all there, as I say. But to say it's entirely up to you. This is purely just a freebie. I really wanted to try this new camera out there today, but I really wanted to talk about stuff that I kind of think about. So I'm gonna kick this off here, and hopefully, you'll join in with some of your pet peeves as a biker, as a motorcyclist, right? Somebody who rides motorcycles. Okay, that's what I call a biker. Somebody who rides motorcycles. Somebody who rides bikes. As simple as that. But obviously, everybody else has got a different interpretation of that. And to be honest with you, I'm well over that whole conversation. I just think it's a bit silly, to be honest with you. But there we go. That's just me. I don't buy into that sort of nonsense. But look, one of the things that kind of annoys me, technology, as I said, when it doesn't work. When it works, it's great. When it doesn't, I think we are being pushed, aren't we, into this accepting more and more technology and embracing more and more technology. And that's fine when it works. When it doesn't work, that's when and the slightest little thing, and that's it. Nothing works. Whereas older vehicles, let's say older bikes, older cars, the old analog days, you could just it wasn't electrical. You can just put stuff together and it would work, or you get something to go on. So that's it. I mean, I think technology has a lot to answer for. When it's working great, it's great. But listen, that's not what I wanted to talk about. I've been forced into talk about because this bloody thing won't work. But anyway, listen, I wanted to talk about things that annoy me when I'm on the road riding my bike. And especially I notice it when the weather turns a little bit, but it seems to be happening more and more. And I've kind of remarked upon this in the past, but you're right, you're riding along, or if I'm in my truck and I'm driving along, and then there is a speed limit, let's say a national speed limit of 60 miles an hour. Whatever, 70 miles an hour. It could be 30 miles an hour, whatever. And there's some dopey idiot in a car, usually a car ahead of you, who's doing, I'm not talking about goods lorries and things like that, but, trucks or whatever, because sometimes they have to go slower for reasons, of load and all that sort of stuff. But you got somebody in a car who's doing half the speed limit. Dangerously slow, and it's just causing a whole tailback, and you can't get by them because the road might be narrow. That's one thing that really annoys me. Or people who they come out of a 30-mile-an-hour zone into a 60-mile-an-hour zone, let's say. Here in the UK, I'm talking about. Obviously, you just exchange the speed limits for wherever you are in the world, of course. But they stick to 30 miles an hour. They don't speed up. And it's just like infuriating. And it seems to happen more and more. But what I certainly notice it as soon as somebody is driving in kind of changing weather, all of a sudden they overreact, they overcompensate for the weather conditions, and it's just a nightmare. So that's one thing. And let us know what it's not necessarily having a dig at other drivers on the road or other road users on the road. It's just people making really poor decisions, and the amount of people who, let's face it, just should be on the bloody road. They shouldn't be driving. And I'm not saying if it's a woman thing or a man thing or it's an elderly thing. I'm not saying this it can be right across the board of the incompetence, you know what I mean? Or the over being overprotective or over hesitating, whatever, that kind of thing. And I noticed that. But so that's one thing. The other thing, and us as bikers know this as well, is where bad driving practices ahead of you and you're having to overly compensate for something that you haven't seen yet but you think might just happen, then all of a sudden you think, I'm glad I did hold back because this arsehole is a complete. I had this one car yesterday, literally we were going around this roundabout, this bend, right? And they just sideswiped me, just came right across. They were on the inside lane and they just came right to the outside lane where I was riding, sideswiped me and missed me by about that much, just came right across. And then they were doing this in front of me, just, weaving. So I just held back. I thought, what is this? But are they drunk? Are they drunk? Is that what it is? You're drunk, aren't you? Yeah, but you can't be. It was like midday. So well, what the hell's going on? Well, maybe you can be at midday. I don't know. I suppose you can be drunk anytime, really. I mean, anytime is margarita time, obviously. But honestly, I don't think they were drunk. I think either they were just incompetent or they were having some kind of an episode. But then they seemed to straighten themselves up afterwards, and they seemed to be driving okay. So what was all that glitch about? The other thing is, when you're riding along or driving, you can apply to drivers as well. And then somebody just cuts across your path, but they haven't indicated, or they turn off, or they suddenly slow down for no reason, put the brakes on, and then they suddenly want to turn. And it's just like, what are you thinking? Where are you in your own little world, your own little bubble, that you don't even think about any other road user and how they're having to react? So all of a sudden you suddenly brake, and you just stay there in the middle of the road, or you suddenly want to turn, and you don't indicate, you don't put on your turn signal to let anybody know that, hey, I'm going to be turning that way. So what is this? Is this a frigging guessing game or something? It's a guessing game out there on the road. I mean, it's just absolutely nuts. I mean, I know. I kind of talked a little bit about this in the video which I've just made. But I think this time of year for me, I always spot it. And I always spot this kind of a peak in this hesitation or indecision of anytime there's a changing season. But it's certainly right now the starkness of the contrast of a changing season happens quite quickly. Whereas when you go into spring, into summer, it's a gradual easing off, and then you get nice days of weather, right? Here, going from the end of summer into early autumn, when it can still be really nice weather, then all of a sudden you're hit with cold, wet, and then sometimes icy weather very quickly. And it depends where you're on the world, of course. You'll feel this in different ways. But it's just, it's how people react to it, and how people reacting to the road, reacting to the conditions, and how they're acting to other people. I mean, it just goes on and on. I mean, I could say, you bastards, get out of my way. I mean, it could be anything, but then it starts filtering into other things, right? Like, the title of this video, what really annoys bikers: snowflakes and coffee mugs. Well, the snowflakes, I'll get onto that in a little bit. But coffee mugs, we're all mugs, as we would like to call it in the UK. We're all mugs. We're all idiots for going and spending all this money on coffee, right? I am a coffee. I love coffee, right? I love, let me take a sip of this as well. I love coffee. Unfortunately, this is cold coffee now, but I love coffee, right? I love it. Always have. I used to be a tea drinker when I was a kid, as most people are, I suppose, in this country anyway. Then I went into coffee, and I just got into it. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here, but there is a bit of a backstory to it. I used to live in the United States, and before I moved to the United States, my views of the United States were based mainly around watching TV and films, right? Never actually lived there, never been there for a holiday or anything like that. So, and there's some of the things that you saw in the films and TV programs at the time weren't over here in the UK, or certainly weren't within my living vicinity, certainly not on my radar. One of those things was Starbucks, right? I'd heard of Starbucks as a company, as a coffee chain, but I'd not ever seen anything. In fact, coffee chain places weren't really a thing back then. Yes, we had cafes, and we still have cafes, but not coffee type houses like a Starbucks or a Costa Coffee or a whatever, Cafe Nero type thing, sort of all sprung up, right? So I went to live over in San Francisco area, and coffee houses were becoming a big, I wouldn't say a big thing, but they were starting to develop quite quickly, and little coffee shops on the corner and whatever. So, going out and about, you pick up coffee. Anyway, when I first went there, I actually ended up going up to Seattle. I was up in Seattle, and I saw the Starbucks. I thought, Starbucks. Oh yeah, let me go check these out. This is a bit of my slice of Americana. I'm gonna, check this out. Anyway, so I was on my own, popped into the Starbucks. And I said, it's my turn to be served by the young millennial type kid behind the counter. And I said, he said, may I help you? It's very polite of you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll have a coffee, please. And you should have seen the look on his face. It was like I'd murdered his cat. It was like I was, I'd taken a pot of red paint and I'd thrown it all over his, brand new Porsche or something. It was just, it's just like, what? I just want a coffee. And but no, he was like, no, there's a whole blackboard of ingredients or flavorings or styles or different coffee beans from different parts of the world and all this kind of stuff. And I should have seen it. All some of the problems we talk about now, and like social media and the way people think and this kind of liberalism or fake wokeism and all this kind of stuff, I kind of see it back then. And I was just like, blimey, what is going on? In the end, I got a bit arsey with the guy. I said, look, all I want is a coffee. Just give me a coffee. Black coffee, splash of milk. That's all I need, and it was that kind of thing. So then you thought, right, okay, so I'll get onto the story now. So I lived in the United States and I got used to this kind of coffee culture, especially on my days off during the day when I was out and about doing things, especially around San Francisco, going out, little coffee places and everything, read a paper, read a magazine, whatever. Loved it, right? I came back to this country, to home, and I kind of, on my days off, let's say, that's what I would do. I go to coffee places and, hey, read a paper or whatever, just chill out, especially on a Sunday, find a real cool coffee shop, and it'd be a nice, cool vibe, a little bohemian vibe, that kind of smoking cigarettes and coffee and yeah, that kind of thing. Anyway, then I started realizing, well, okay, I'm going to these coffee houses quite a lot. Then I sort of did my sums one day because the price of the coffee started getting more and more. It was like £1.50, then it was like £2 and £2.50, and that's £3, £3.50, whatever it is. It can be even more sometimes. And I realised that on a weekly basis, I was spending anywhere from £30 to £50 a week, depending on how many times I went to the coffee place and in coffee shops and stuff like that. I thought, oh, this is nuts, absolutely nuts. So obviously then I just dramatically reduced going to these coffee shops and only go there as a treat every now and again. But it's the price of these things that just keep on going up and up and up. So you think, right, okay, well, how is it that I can go on my bike and go to a biker cafe and I'll probably spend £1.50 on a mug of tea or a mug of coffee. And I go down the road over there because it's really nice and it's really cool to have a coffee. All of a sudden it's like £3.50, and then you get £3.50 for a big mug, right? Then you pay £3.50 for a little thing. You might have seen a video I did a couple of weeks ago where I popped into that. What's going on? So but being ripped off in general pisses me off. It does. It pisses me off no end, and I don't like it. And it's almost like you fool me once, shame on you. You fool me twice, shame on me. Is that what we're saying? You know what I mean? But it's the same kind of thing with being ripped off. You only have to rip me off once, and that's it. You're dead to me, as the mafia would say. You're dead to me, that kind of thing. So you rip me off once, that's it. Never going back again, and it really pisses me off. But there we go. So that's the kind of thing that I get fed up with, is kind of being ripped off, and paying over the odds for something and not getting value for it. But then I get, so this is like the coffee mugs scenario, right? We're all mugs. We're all idiots for paying this sort of stuff. We're all mugs. We're all idiots for getting ripped off in this kind of thing. But then you got the other side where people are, they're just so willing to, bend over and be shafted, by all this stuff, by the whole modern life. And, nobody can put up with any hardship, and nobody can put up with any kind of criticism, or nobody can put up with anything. The world is getting more and more. It's being taken over, what we call snowflakes, isn't it? It's being taken over by, liberal fucktards, let's say. I'm going to swear. It's one of those swearing days today. And look, I'm a liberal. I'm a bit of everything. I'm a bit of conservative, bit of a social, Labour, socialism. I'm a bit of liberal. I'm a mishmash of everything, really, in terms of political views, or the way I think about the world. I'm not really a political person, but a view in the world. But then you got all these people out there who are just coming up with absolute nonsense. And then, it's almost like a social pressure to agree with stuff. And whether it's Brexit, whether it's COVID, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's, the price of ham, whatever it is, all of a sudden there's this grouping of people who suggest that you should do something, you should say something. If you don't say this, or if you don't do this, and somehow you are the Antichrist. Well, that's why. Perhaps, I don't know. Maybe you're the same and maybe you're not. I don't know. But maybe as you get older, you kind of see all this. You kind of see the nonsense that it really is. And that's why, as older people, we kind of disconnect ourselves from that sort of stuff. Some people do, some people don't. But I say for the most part, a lot of people, as you get older, this has always happened. This is not just a modern generational thing. This has always happened. As you get older, you get more and more disconnected from the new stuff. And I suppose we are in my sort of age group, 50 to 60-year-olds, maybe a little bit older. We're in that kind of transitional generation. We were the ones that grew up with no technology, as it were. I didn't grow up with computers, didn't grow up with mobile phones, cell phones, didn't grow up with the internet. We remember the analog days, as it were, the analog without all this stuff. But we've had to grow and adapt quite quickly and to embrace all the modern trappings, whereas you got the children of today, that's all they know, and I call them snowflakes and millennials and snowflakes. That's that generation who don't know any analog ways. They don't know any hardship. They don't know about just putting on multiple layers of clothing to keep yourself warm, as opposed to just complaining as it's too cold, that kind of stuff, right? But then you got the other side of this argument. Let's say my parents and the older generation, and so they completely got lost. They completely, many people got lost in this kind of technological enhancements, right? Computers and phones and internet and all that sort of stuff. That they got lost. They didn't. So you got that whole generation who are dying off, right, as they get older. So you've got a bit of a problem now where you've got the older generation that are still around, but they're not computer literate whatsoever. They haven't got a clue, and they rely on their children to try and help them out. But the problem is we've got many systems in this country, and I'm sure it's the same around the world, where, let's say, government departments or local council, local official documentation stuff, it's all online. There is no physical place for you to go to anymore. These old public, buildings, the offices, whatever, you would go and, as a person back in the day, you would go and pay something, or you go and physically inquire, you go and fill out a form, and that kind of. They're getting fewer and fewer. It's more and more of a transition to this online sector. So these older people are completely lost. They are completely out of it. So I just think, I'm in that process now where, whilst I'm still fully immersed in technology, there are lots of things which I've dropped off. There's lots of, like, social media, for example. I don't mess around with it. I just can't be bothered with it. What's the point? I've got accounts there and I post things just to advertise the shows and the videos, but I don't, it's not my thing. I don't engage in idle nonsense or listen to the mob, and what the mob have to say. Now, this mob can be anything, right? It can be social values mob. It could be, the racial mob. It could be biker news mob. It could be, what motorcycle club is doing to another motorcycle club. I don't care. I don't want to know. Just get me out of it. Leave me out, because I'm kind of out of that. I'm out of that. I'm out of everything that doesn't concern me, but that way. And I've always been that way. And I think that's a lesson for us all. Just stay out of the stuff that doesn't involve you, or doesn't, and try not to get dragged into stuff. So maybe that's it. Maybe I am of that age now. Maybe at that age that, well, I'm a bit like my parents now, really, or many parents of our generation, where you think, well, do you know what? I just can't be bothered. I can't be bothered to listen to the young people. I can't be bothered to, you know, be offended or protest, about stuff that just doesn't bother me. You kind of have this level thinking of what things, and you kind of see what is bollocks, what is bullshit, and what isn't. Do you know what I mean? And you have that kind of thing. So what if we bring this all back to motorcycling, right? Motorcycle life, and I see this, and I report it, and I kind of I look at this, and I think that's just nonsense. That's just bullshit. That's just rubbish. And I get it. And I got in trouble from many people, many of you watching out there. I get criticized for some of the videos or some of the opinions that I had, and I stand by those opinions. I'm not going to hide away and say no. If I was critical of, let's say, a Harley Davidson or something like that, but it's how we what's the word I'm looking for? It's where you have an opinion, or you have something that you think isn't quite right, and you want to share that opinion, but then you suddenly realize that actually nobody's listening. One, nobody cares. Two, and nobody, I suppose, is even willing to listen to a view that is differing from their own. And I see that a lot in not only online, whilst I don't participate, I observe and I read, what is the general view, and I listen to quite a few podcasts and get, a broad view of what's going on out there. And then you think, well, these people are talking absolute nonsense, and they're trying to convince you of something, and it isn't quite right. So maybe this is an age thing where we're just not fooled anymore. We just don't buy into this nonsense. Now, bring it back to motorcycling. Whether it's something that some salesman, some marketing executive is trying to convince you that you should buy this bit of technology because it is going to make your world so much better. Or this new bike, or this new car, or this new camera, or whatever, or go and spend a small fortune on a cup of coffee, whatever it is, right? There's people out there, businesses out there, who are trying to convince you to part with your money. That's great. That's, in many ways, that's right, okay, because that's the way things move, and that's the way we all get on. But there comes a point where you kind of cut through all that spiel, all that marketing hype, all that nonsense, and you also cut through all nonsense opinions out there that just don't matter. And it's all, as the famous line, it's all bullshit. It's all bollocks. Let's get into some of these comments. Panamed, hello there. How are you? Morris, hello. Hi. How are you? TM13A, hello. Let's have a look. I mean, I'm sure we all have our pet hates, don't we? We all have our pet peeves. What really annoys us bikers. Well, you can pretty much say that's pretty much of a rubbish title, isn't it? What really annoys bikers? It should be what really annoys us all. What really annoys us, everything. So if you're an older person, you're going to say the young generation. I hate the bloody young generation. Yeah, or it's because they're a bunch of snowflake millennial bloody idiots. The price of things. The techno. And these are the things that really annoy me, I suppose. And I vote with my feet, or I vote with my actions, as it were. I let it be known that, hey, listen, I'm not going to put up with this. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to, buy into this. And that's the critical thing. I don't buy into it. So I don't buy into it. I don't buy it. I don't spend my money. I spend my money on stuff that I suppose I spend my money on stuff that other people would think is irrelevant. So I give you a case in point, right? I like the kind of money that I spend is money on tools and fixings and things like that, because obviously I do a lot of work on bikes or stuff around the house or whatever. I'm always tinkering away doing stuff, so I spend my money on that. You get another person who's never lifted a tool in their life, they don't know how to do anything, they'll never spend that money on that. Okay, so us who like to work on bikes, let's say, or like to work on cars, and you got your tools, you kind of, the middle-aged man's porn, if you like. Guess what? It's a tool catalog, isn't it? You're kind of going, oh, oh, hello, that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, listen, you're all the same. We're all the same. You get past that, all that other nonsense. You think, oh, that's a nice tool. I like that. Thanks very much. I'll have that. So that's what you're looking at. Okay, that's what you spend your money on, or that's what I spend my money on. Other people, they don't see that. They don't have that interest. But also, they don't even know how to change a light bulb. They don't even know how to, fix the simplest of things. And yes, we've all turned into this throwaway society, and it's all this and it's all that. You've got bikes and cars that you can't readily fix yourself anymore because it's all computer based and it's all got electronics on. Yes, you can do the mechanicals if you really want to, but it's the electronics that, that's what's halting more and more and more. And the kids are today, I take my, my son in his age group, many of those kids, don't know anything about, the practicalities of life, put it that way. They live in this virtual world, the phone world, wherever my phone is. They're like this all the time. Yeah, and they're very good. They're very good at using their phones. They're going really quickly. And he'll try show me something on his phone, and I'm like, well, just stop, just hold it still so I can see it, because they're going at 100 miles an hour with their brains on this sort of tech stuff. But you ask them to change a light bulb, or you ask them to change a fuse in the plug, they'll be like, what? They haven't got a clue. Whereas I grew up knowing this stuff, or from a very young age, because there wasn't this distraction for us kids. But these kids have all got distractions, Morris, I was shocked to discover that many youngsters can't read an analog clock. Many youngsters can't read. Many youngsters at all can't read. Many youngsters can't tell the time. Can't tell a 24-hour clock, all that sort of stuff. There we go. I'm missed all the comments. I do apologize, guys. Here we go. Panam. Starbucks is nasty, bitter as hell. I like black coffee with nothing in it. I get picky, lol. Yeah, that's a nasty, bitter as hell. Do you know what? It's interesting. You go to these different. Well, I say I don't tend to do a lot of going to coffee houses anymore, as I said. But it's odd, isn't it? It's odd that there's all these different flavors and everything like that, and all you want is a cup of black coffee or a cup of coffee, whatever it is, with milk, without milk. You just want a simple cup of coffee, and they just can't handle it. They can't handle it. I was in New York a couple of years ago. What the hell was it that my other half, she had? It was a Starbucks again. It was some kind of coffee, might have been a cappuccino type thing, but with this salted caramel glaze or thing over it. And I was just like, well, one, caramel's sweet. What the hell are you putting salt with it? Salted caramel for me, I don't get it. I just don't get the whole thing. I just no, not for me. And then you want to put that in a coffee. Is it? Oh, no thanks. And it was just, and then my laddie had a something else, but it was like a fruity type thing as well. And I thought, no, that's not right. I said, I'll just have a coffee, please. A coffee. Oh, you mean an Americano? Yeah, okay, if you like. Just, has it got coffee and milk in it? Yeah, okay, that'll do. It's thing. I mean, I sound like a right Luddite. I mean, I do like cappuccinos and other things as well. Don't get me wrong, but simplicity for me is better. Simplicity for me. Here we go. The Gen X seem to have a good balance. The Gen X, who are the Gen X? I've heard this term before, but I don't know the Gen. Are we Gen X? Is that what is that what I am? Am I Gen X of old school and tech? I must be. Somebody help me out. Am I Gen X? No, I'm getting confused with Gen Z. I heard this term the other day, Gen Z. I think that's like my son's age. Just complete no, growing up, full of opinion, can't do anything else like that. But Panam, not only that, what shocks me the most, and it's because of Common Core math. Yes, no one can count in their head anymore. No one can count change back. It drives me nuts. It was interesting. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about this is a United States thing, right? But you could say this from all over the world, right? Because of COVID and because of the policies that were implemented, and don't go here and closing schools, the amount of school days that our children lost during that period was nuts. It was all working from home and everything. Anyway, luckily my lad got through it and he did quite well. But lots of kids suffered. Lots of kids. And you ask, sort of teachers, honestly, and they would say, yeah, lots of kids are behind. Yeah, they'll make it up, but still lots of kids. There are lots of kids of the younger generation who are 2 or 3 years behind. But this from this podcast, I forgot who it was actually, but they were talking about the math in the United States. And it's something like they've dropped from being in the top 5 or top 10 in the world for educating or math, or for kids learning math. We call it maths, by the way, mathematics. In the United States, you call it math without the S. But anyway, I digress. But they were saying that basically they've dropped way down to like 37th or 50. They got kids who just don't know mental arithmetic, as Panam Ed was saying. They just don't know how to count. They just don't know basic maths. But you could say this for all sorts of different subjects. There's a huge gulf now in what kids should know and what they don't know, and basically it's because of COVID. But it's not because of COVID. It's because of the policies and this over-protectionist thing of how we all coped with it. And yes, for lots of us it was scary, and lots of us working on the front line, it was still scary. We didn't know, especially those early days, we had no idea, but we were still going to work. We were still doing it, whilst lots of people were staying home or being forced to stay home. But one of the things that we really got pissed off with after a while is that, do you know what? The kids, why aren't they going to school? And it's every day there was no, your kid can't come to school because so and so. So the whole year had to stay home at school. And it was driving us as parents insane. Now, we were lucky because we had an older child who could be left alone. But if you got younger children, and this destroyed home lives in terms of, well, not destroyed, that's the wrong word, but it turned it on its head, because you've got young children who are not at school. That means that there has to be a parent to supervise children at home. So that means that some people who could go back to work as mums or dads couldn't, because they had to look after their children. Absolutely nuts. There we go. Gen X, mid-60s to early 80s. Okay, so I'm a Gen X then. Right. I give credit to Billy Idol's for the name. Okay. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. That's right. But look, I mean, so there's lots of things. That annoy me. As I get older, I get more annoyed. I have to keep it in check. I've got to say, I have to keep it in check, because I can get, well, it's not that I get carried away, but I just think, I roll my eyes at things and I think, what's the next thing? What is this you're trying to say? And I suppose, when the thing for me at the moment is this electric bike thing. Of the last sort of, and it's building up, and I see it in that I'm trying to embrace it. I'm trying to welcome it. I'm trying to see where the benefit is, but I'm just not convinced by anything that people are telling me or companies are trying to tell me of what the value is in these things. And that's where it is, the value. I don't see the value in it over and above a petrol motorcycle. And that's where I'm at. I just don't see it. I just don't see, and I also don't see the value in really high priced motorcycles either. I just don't see it. I just don't see why I go into a Harley dealership, let's say, but same could be applied for any other motorcycle company who are selling in the expensive bikes, and I just cannot see the reasoning where it's almost justified. They're justifying, or they're pointing the finger at me in a kind of derogatory way to say, well, yes, you should be paying this money for this bike. You should be paying 30,000, 35,000 for a bike. And you're like going, are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? It's that kind of taxi driver. Are you talking to me? That kind of thing. You think, well, surely nobody in their right mind wants to pay that kind of money. No matter how nice it looks, no matter how much you want it, because it's a physical thing or it's a visual thing, you think, I like that. I like that bike. I like it. I want it. I want it. I want it. Right. But then you look at the price tag and you think, I don't want it that much. I really don't want it that much. But you do want it if the prices were a lot lower. And that's the thing. And that's where they're trying to convince you that these things are good value for money. And I just think, I don't. Not a new bike. Yeah, used bike, whatever. You can find them, fine. But if you're really after a new bike, then, it drives me insane. It drives me insane. My son is 26. When he was in grade school, on parent-teacher nights, she would put problems on the board. I could figure the problem out in my head, but told I was wrong, even though it was right. Okay, here's an interesting thing, right? Here's an interesting thing. The way they teach children for the last 15, 20 years has completely changed, right? The methodology that they employ to achieve the same results has changed. So that, let's just say maths, for example, right? Or science or English, or whatever, but math in particular is very noticeable. Is that my lad would come home with his maths papers, his maths homework, and the way they were working out or being asked to calculate it is completely different than the way I was taught, right? Or the way I knew, or the way I grew up, and the way I still use it today. Now, granted, much of it we've all forgotten, right? And we have to re-educate ourselves. So, but then you try and show your child, oh, well, look, okay, this is how you do it. You take X and you put Y and you add 10 and to that to the power of that and and there's your answer, right? And then they say, no, Dad, no, you can't do that. And so they start getting really angry at you because that's not the way they've been shown. And I'm saying, okay, I get that. But all I'm doing, I'm showing you there's a different way here. I don't know your way, so you're going to have to teach me now how your way is. But bless them, they don't know themselves because they can't teach you. So you're saying, okay, well, you can't teach me, and I don't understand what you're trying to tell me. So I'm going to show you the other way. And it's like, no. You can't. That's wrong. That's wrong. So you get into this kind of battle of wills with your children and also the school. And then you're expected to try to help each other, and in the end, it becomes one of the problems is they've totally changed the way kids are taught. So as parents, as older parents, you're kind of thinking, I don't even know what you're talking about. Just do it like that. It's so much easier. But anyway, yeah. Here we go. Agree. Pan think the whole Common Core. Sorry. I think the whole Common Core math. Was so we couldn't help our kids with math. Now look at math scores and they're horrible for youth. Yeah, they are. Yeah, I think that in this podcast I was talking about the other day, they were talking about Los Angeles or LA County, for example, which, from me in England is so far removed. But I'll give you this as an example, right? It was something like they were saying that the Los Angeles math scores were better than anybody else. And they would kind of say, they're saying to themselves, "Oh, look at how well we're doing. They're maths of brilliance, right?" But the problem is, they just weren't as bad as everybody else, but they were still rock bottom. Do you know what I mean? There was just a slight improvement above everybody else, neighboring areas, let's say. It just nuts. But there we go. And I suppose this is this is the thing, isn't it? It's people, organizations, companies, education departments, whatever it is, whatever body, they try and convince themselves, but they also can try and convince you as a person to say, hey, look, this is the right way. This is the only way. Our way is the best way. Our motorcycle is the best. Our exhaust is the best. Our, tune is the best. Whatever it is, it could be anything. And they're trying to convince you. And I suppose that, when I started doing all my stuff, when I on motorcycles and companies and Harley Davidson and other companies as well, I was kind of poking them a little bit and just saying, shaking the tree, as it were. I like to shake the tree a little bit. I don't like to shake the tree to cause trouble, and I don't like to shake the tree to, embarrass anybody. I just want to shake the tree a little bit just for my own enlightenment, for my own visual understanding or intellectual understanding, to say, okay, you're claiming this, right? This is what you want, right? This is what you're saying. You're saying your company is great, your service is great, your delivery is great, your product is great, all these things, right? Great. And then you've got a whole tribe of people who've bought into that, right? Who've bought into it. I'm not talking about Harley Davidson particularly. I'm talking about, it could be anything, right? Could be anything. But they've bought into that. You've bought into this whole thing that you have created. Now, whether I like that product or that company is irrelevant. Okay, whether I like a product from that Apple, let's say, I've got an Apple computer, right? Or I've got an Apple phone. Yeah, you could say, hey, I'm Mr. Apple, right? But I'm not. I just like using that product and I like using that phone. And if I had an iPad, I'd use that iPad, for example. But I'm not really that bothered about the company. But I will pick holes at the company, Apple, if the product doesn't go right, or let's say I find out that they're doing unsavory practices, which many of these big corporations are. Let's not forget it, right? So I apply that same kind of tactic to Harley Davidson, to Honda, to Kawasaki, to Royal Enfield, whatever. I shake the tree of it a little bit, and I kind of look at what is presented before me, and I look about what I hear and what I know, and I think, yeah, it's not quite right. It doesn't make sense. And guess what? When I don't get anybody coming up to me and say, Alf, you were right. Alf, you were right. But all the things that I was talking about Harley Davidson, in terms of warranties, in terms of this is not quite right, something's not there, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. And guess what? Then the American government, the FTC, suddenly start rolling back onto Harley Davidson and say, hey, you should not be doing this. And it's all in the news now. So this is what annoys me about being a motorcyclist or being a bike or whatever. It's just that we're constantly being bombarded with stuff that we're just supposed to accept. We're supposed to accept. Whatever happened to you being a biker, right? For example, because bikers are supposed to be independently thinking people, right? In my eyes, this is what we are. We're supposed to be we're supposed to not buy into all that. We're supposed to have freedom running through our veins. We're supposed to be independent, right? Whether you're in a motorcycle club or not, whether that's a kind of a side issue. The issue is, what's in your mind, what's in your bones, as it were. But then how many are so easily, swayed by all this stuff? And I don't know. I mean, you know, if in my mind I'm a modern thinker, but I'm very, very much old school. I'm very much of the past. I'm very much of, you know, this is the way we used to do it, and this is the way it should be done, type thing. Maybe it's just that you've got not younger people, because many people of my age as well, but you know, people have just latched on to motorcycling in recent years. Not even in recent years, in the last 20 odd years, maybe maybe even longer than that, 25 years, 30 years. Yeah, maybe in the last 30 years or so. Maybe the last 35 years, I don't know. It seemed to start when I was a kid, really, when I was, you know, sub 20. But, you know, more and more people just kind of take up motorcycling as a leisure activity rather than a leisure and mode of transport. So when I started riding bikes on the road, it was a mode of transport as well as something I'd really like doing, because I was off-road riding, you know, since I was sort of 10 years old. So off-road riding, dirt bike riding, that kind of thing. And then I went on to road riding, but that, you know, that's, you know, whilst I had a car at the time, I couldn't afford to run it, so I got myself I had a bike, and I started riding that on the road, and you know, it was out of necessity. It was a mode of transport, and then I just rode it all year round. You know, all weathers, all year round, and that's the way it is. But I just want, and I still have that within me. Yeah, I have my limitations on when I ride, you know, in terms of weather, but I'm still first and foremost a motorcycle rider, a biker. That in my mind, in my heart, in my soul, that's what I am. Second of all, am a car driver. Well, I'm not actually. You know, I'm not even a car driver. You know, I haven't driven a car for many years. Of anything that I own, I should say. You know, I'm either a 4x4 SUV type thing, or I've got a pickup truck, and that's what I drive. Or the Breaking Bad camper, of course. You know, my camper van. But you know, so I'm not a car person, but I'm always, you know, the first mode of transport that I will go for is always a motorcycle. That's it. It always will be. And it doesn't have to be any particular type of motorcycle. If it's on two wheels, I'll take it. You know, predominantly because I'm not a triker. You know, I don't have anything against trikes. It's just that I'm not a triker. You know, I've never. Have I ever ridden one? I don't think I've ridden one. No, I've never ridden one. Um, but you know, they have their place. Don't get me wrong. And yeah, if I wouldn't say I would never ride a trike. Yeah, I've got no problem in that. Um, but for me, it's always two wheels, and that's all the experience that I know, and that's what I would automatically lean to. So whether people have just jumped into motorcycling and they're not really seeing what I'm seeing, is possibly there's possibly something in that. I don't know. It could be. It could be. Um, So, oh, here we go. Right, let's have a look here. My brother just bought a 2022 lowrider ST yesterday. Oh, okay, very nice. When he went to go and sign, they tried to up it to a total of 8K at sign. They tried to up it 8,000. My God, what was that for? Is this like an overselling from the dealership, you know, and that kind of thing? Crikey. Harley Davidson tax, we call it. Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? The Harley tax. I mean, it's noticeable, but it's interesting though. Was you know, we know it's there. The Harley tax is there, and you know, but you could say this about any higher end bike or higher end manufacturer. They apply their own uh, illusion of a tax or illusion of a premium brand tax, right? They try and you know, they try and extract more money from you for, you know, their brand is premium, their brand is the Rolls Royce of two wheels and all that sort of stuff, or the Rolls Royce of, you know, cellular communication. And you're like going, yeah, that's my dog, by the way. There we go, look at that. There we go. There's Bailey. But anyway, listen. So they try and convince you of that, don't they? And then but there's lots of people who acknowledge there's a Harley tax. There's lots of people who don't. They don't want to acknowledge it at all. They don't want, because they buy into whatever it is. They buy into the mob, the appreciation society of whatever it is. Whether it's Harley Davidson, whether it's Kawasaki, whether it's Ford, Toyota, whatever it is. If you buy into it, then you're not going to have anybody say anything about it. If all you're buying into is the positives. And I suppose this is where I would say about anything, because I'm not just talking about one particular brand here. I'm talking about lots of things, right? But I shake the tree because I see the positives, because there's always great positives, but there's always things that you think, that's not quite right. There's something. No. Hold on a minute. You're trying to muddy the waters here. So shake the tree a little bit. Shake the tree just to see what falls. Let's just see what cracks develop. Let's just see where the truth lies, as it were. But here we go. The prices are ridiculous. Yeah. Over 500 quid for a sissy bar and rack with fittings for a lowrider ST. Yeah. I when I was first getting my bike, my Harley Davidson, which I thought was a lot of money, more money than I'd ever wanted to spend on a motorcycle. But I did. I went for it. I thought this is probably going to be one of my last bikes, one of my last big purchases, and all that sort of stuff. Right. I started looking at all the accessories, and I was just like, oh my God, really? You what? And then I started saying, okay, well, I'm making video content on this, and I started talking about, okay, you can do this, but actually you can do this like that, and it's just still the same thing. So that was, for the longest time, my channel was about my bike, my relationship with my bike, finding little fixes for things, or finding out, oh, there's an expensive version, but look, you get this from here, or you do that, and you get it a lot cheaper, whatever, right? Now, whilst I was doing that, there's still people who would say, no, that's terrible. You can't do that. You've got to buy the official thing from Harley Davidson. And, yeah, you could buy the same sissy bar, or you could have one made up. You could have a bespoke one made, a sissy bar, right, for half the price. Yeah. But you could buy from companies, other companies out there, different ones. Different, and they are there. They are there. You just have to. The problem is, and I suppose we're all guilty of this. I suppose it is that, especially if you're new to a motorcycle or new to motorcycling, but especially new to a motorcycle brand, and you're not immersed in, let's say, for example, Harley Davidson, you're not immersed in the culture, or you're not immersed in the whole understanding of Harley Davidson motorcycles, not the brand. I'm not talking about the brand, I'm talking about the motorcycles, right? So you might think, okay, the only place that you can get your parts or accessories is from a dealership, right? And that's initially what you'll think. So you'll think, right, okay, I'll get my bike, but I also get that, and I get that seat, and I get those handlebars, and I get that. And then but this is if you don't know anybody else who's got Harley Davidson, by the way. But then once you got the bike, then you start thinking, oh, okay, I'll start mixing with people, and you start speaking with people. Maybe you join a hog group, a hog chapter, all this kind of thing. And then people start talking. You're in a motorcycle club, or you're in you go to places where other Harley Davidson riders congregate. Let's say you start sparking up conversations. It's all lovely, it's all nice. You make friends, and you have fun and all that sort of stuff. And then you start swapping stories, don't you? Okay, it's natural. You start swapping ideas of about your bike, and that's the whole beauty of owning a bike, riding a bike, swapping stories, talking to people, engaging, all that kind of stuff. But then you start hearing the truth, as it were. The truth is that you don't need to buy from a dealership. You don't need to buy at that price. You can buy these things at a much cheaper price. You can buy something somewhere else. You can say to yourself, do you know what? There's all these accessories I can put on my bike. But do you know what? After a while, I took all those accessories off and I just went back to pretty much a standard bike, right? I've heard this so many times before, where people have said, you know what, I started to put all this stuff on, but it didn't quite work for me, and I just went back to the basic bike, and I'm much happier. And so many people are like that. So many people like that. Or they say, I was going to buy it from Harley Davidson, but you know what, I just bought it from this shop down the road. It was so much easier. Or just bought it online, or a lot. There's a cheap Chinese knockoff that's just as good. Fraction of the price. Not everybody's like this, of course. I'm not saying that. Some people will definitely not that. They will only buy Harley Davidson products, or they will only buy Ford products, or they own, whatever that is, right? But there are lots of other people who won't, and they change their mind and they change their view. And you ride a particular motorcycle in this case because you like the motorcycle, right? You may like the brand, you may like Suzuki's, you may like, GSXRs, whatever, but you buy that bike, whatever bike it is, because you like that bike. It fits for you. It fits your way of doing things. It fits your riding style. If it's your preference for power, your preference for handling, your preference for seating position, or you can see, hey, guess what? But if I buy this bike, but if I change it just a little bit, it's going to be the perfect riding bike. Do you know what I mean? So that's how, in your mind, that's what you're seeing. You move very much away from the brand or the type of bike or whatever. It's about that bike that you have and with you, right? It's that symbiotic riding relationship, if you like. I'm kind of over elaborating here, but you know what I mean. It's that fusion of rider, biker, and bike. That's what makes it the perfect ride, if you will. Whether it's made by Harley Davidson, Indian, Kawasaki, Moto Guzzi, whatever, it doesn't. It's Ducati. It doesn't make any difference. What it is how you feel on that bike, right? So once you get over that brand thing, and especially if you don't associate with any particular group, right? Then all you have left is the purity of that relationship, that fusion of biker and motorbike, right? That's it. That's how you have. You don't care about everything else. Everything else is to the background. You don't care about it. You don't need it. It's irrelevant, right? All you think about is that fusion of your bike. Now, that glue that holds that relationship together, it can strengthen or it can weaken or whatever. Or, you're riding along and within 2 or 3 years, you think, oh, there's another bike. And you think, oh, maybe that'll be an even better fit for me, an even better experience. Now, it could be that you've bought into the brand now and you want to go for another bike or whatever, so there's lots of angles to this, lots of reasons. But the brand per se, which people get really hung up on, I don't think is as nearly as important. In fact, I don't think it's as important at all as the relationship you have with your particular bike. And you could have a friend who's got exactly the same bike as you, right? But your bike could be better for you than riding his bike. Yeah, it becomes just a connection, a physical thing, and may have made very minor changes to your bike, but it feels right. And I've made on my bike. In fact, it was only this year that I started to make. Well, I would say substantial changes, but in the grand scheme of things, actually very minor things. My changes from my bike were more about comfort, really, more about riding position and everything like that. And that's just the way it is. But everyone to themselves. Everybody, can make up their own mind of what is right or what is wrong. But when we're talking about things that annoy me or things that annoy you or things that get on your case about being a biker, it could be anything. Of course it could. It could be anything. You could be annoyed at just watching this, or you could be annoyed at just listening to me harp on, whatever. You could be annoyed that people are spending too much time online and in getting involved in online motorcycle groups or whatever. And I kind of agree with that, right? Especially when it's about like Facebook groups or Reddit groups or things like this, or people start building up social groups, online social groups, or online motorcycle clubs, or a motorcycle club develops, or riding group develops from a motorcycle Facebook group and that kind of thing. And that's been a big rise of that over the last 20 years, which don't get me wrong, is fine if it is a bona fide thing. But the problem is, as we know, joining these things in physical form is completely different to joining these things in an online form. And when you're doing it physically, it really depends. There's so many different things. I'm not just talking about being a motorcycle club. I'm talking about just joining something physically, whereas you have to contribute physically. You have to be there. You have to be there in the moment. Whereas online, you don't. You don't have to be there online. But so lots of people are annoyed with that. Lots of people are annoyed with the online thing, the media thing. Lots of people are annoyed with the media representation of TV, film, of motorcycle life, motorcycle culture. The backlash that things like, I don't know, like motorcycle movies have got, or Sons of Anarchy have got, that kind of thing. And there's lots of other stuff that you could say that's caused a big backlash. So you could be annoyed at anything. Of course, you could be annoyed at anything. You could be annoyed at the world. You could be annoyed at your next door neighbors. But I think that for me, there's, again, as I said right at the start, there is like a threshold of how much bullshit you're willing to accept. How much nonsense are you willing to take on board? How much are you prepared to listen to somebody try to pull the wool over your eyes? And you reach a tipping point. And I think many people reach that tipping point quite well. They probably reach it quite early on now because of social media and the way people talk a lot more, and the way people sort of throw mud left, right, and center. And I think that it's gone too far sometimes online, in the way, as I said, the way people gang together and start trying to put their views across in the world. And I think as you get older, you tend to, as I said, you tend to look at these things and you kind of think, well, that doesn't mean anything to me. I'm just going to, do my own thing. And I think, you can do this with anything. You can do this with anything, with whether it's a motorcycle company, whether it's a motorcycle brand, whether it's an event, right? So, let's just say, for an example, whether you're ride by yourself or you ride with a group of friends or you're in a motorcycle club, and let's say if you go to an event, there is kind of sometimes an expectation that you have to enjoy that event. I'm not saying, that you will enjoy that event. I'm saying there's an expectation that you will enjoy that event, and there's an expectation that it's got to be praised. Sometimes there could also be an expectation that it's going to be criticized as well. But there's an expectation. So let's just say, for example, I went to a big bike show here, or a big motorcycle rally. And it's almost like, yeah, I'm going to the motorcycle rally. Well, you pay your money, you ride the distance, you pitch up your tent, and you go to these places and you think, yeah, it's great, especially if it's not one that you're not involved in locally, or because I'm involved with it. Well, not involved, but I kind of know guys who locally who set up well, I suppose you call them motorcycle rallies. Yeah, they are rallies. So I know all the kind of background and the effort that goes in behind the scenes, which is, I say this time and time again, the amount of effort and coming together and volunteering of people, bikers this is, to put on a motorcycle rally is just amazing. So it annoys the hell out of me, and I'm sure it annoys them even more, when people are just, they're not giving critical feedback what they're doing, they're just criticizing, and they criticize of things that's just like, well, do you know what, whatever, oh, my soup was too cold, or it was a bit cold at night, or the lights came on a bit too late, or whatever. And he's just like, please do one. You oh, is this a millennial talking or whatever? But it's just like, oh, come on, really. But there's other times they're saying, well, this could have been better. Maybe next year we could do it, where we had a great time, whatever. So yeah, it's not nice hearing the critical part of it, but it's put in a way that people understand. So I get it, that you can't please everybody, and I definitely get it that you can always improve, and you should always be improving, or always looking to improve, right? You should always be looking to improve year on year. But I feel the frustration and the anger where people are on the receiving end of criticism, and you think, what, we've worked our asses off for a year to put this thing on for you guys to come and enjoy yourselves, and you're just not doing it. But there is an expectation that you go somewhere and you have a great time. Now, my experience that I can go to lots of places and I don't have a good time. I'm kind of disappointed them, but I'm not going to criticize them. I'm not going to say whatever. That's just my own personal opinion. So I can go to a motorcycle show or whatever, and I can say, yeah, it's a bit naff, really, all this and that. And I think, well, whatever. I go to a motorcycle rally, and I think, yeah, let's say I went to a Sturgis, for example, a massive thing in the United States, right? Or one of the other big rallies in there, I can pretty much guarantee that it wouldn't be for me. It wouldn't be for me. And it's not that I wouldn't be interested in going. It's not that I wouldn't be I wouldn't like going to the events or going to the bars or whatever, seeing the shows and everything. It's just the enormity of it. It's just the commercialization of these things. That's what I don't like, and that's when I see there's like an expectation. Oh, you're going to Sturgis, you're going to have a really good biker time, and I'm just thinking, you know what? Who says I'm going to have a good time? I'll let you know after I've been. Thanks very much. I don't want to be forced into thinking that I'm going to have a good time or I'm going to like it. And I think, and people get criticized for going to big events and traveling the big distances and not riding their bikes to them, right? Let's say in Sturgis, for example, where you get them on trailers and everything. That doesn't bother me. I mean, that thing doesn't matter, because if you're going to go long distance, especially if you're going with a family or whatever, you're not going to do it on bikes anyway, whatever. But there's a split, isn't there? There's a difference in how people act and people, whatever. So I mean, the enormity, the big size of these massive events don't really appeal to me. And yeah, we don't really have massive events like that here in the UK. Not really. No, I mean, not that I can. We used to have a couple that were almost bigger. They got quite big at one stage, but not anymore. Not that I know of. So they're a little bit smaller. So I like that. And actually, I prefer smaller events, smaller day events or smaller weekend events, really intimate. I like, I don't necessarily, I enjoy going to motorcycle rallies, small ones, but I don't necessarily go to them that often. But I tend to go to motorcycle day events or things that are a bit different, that are in set up in towns or whatever for a weekend, whatever. So I like that kind of thing. But there's a big show coming up in a couple of weeks, and it's the Motorcycle Live Show here in the UK. It's an indoor event. It's all the big trade show. It's all the motorcycle vendors, motorcycle brands are all there, and you go there kind of expecting to have a good time. When I don't know, have a good time is probably the wrong thing to say, but you kind of think it's going to be a big show, it's going to be a big thing. And the last couple of years that I've been there, or the last couple of times I've been there, I should say, and this is the same for the London show, which is in February, which I'll go to as well. I kind of think, yeah, it's all right, it's okay, it's not brilliant, you know what I mean? So, and this has happened more and more of the years. You know, I go to these big events and I think, yeah, it's all right. I mean, I wouldn't say it's brilliant. I wouldn't say, it's fantastic at all. There seems to be missing something. There seems to be the very first motorcycle live show I went to, for example, there was a vibe. There was a real vibe to it, the vibrancy. There was a kind of entertainment factor. And I say this, and where I just got really disappointed in a company like Harley Davidson, for example, specifically, that every other manufacturer was doing the corporate thing, whereas Harley Davidson, this is back in the day, but quite a few years ago now, right? You go to a Harley Davidson stand, and it was a party. It was a party. There was music, but it was cool music. There was a bar. There was, there was stuff going on. There was people sitting down, lounge. It was just chilling out. The stand was nowhere near as big, but it was a lot more intimate, but it was a lot more. And people were congregating to it because it was a vibe. It was going on. Yeah, that's cool. Harley Davidson. Yeah. Whether you rode a Harley Davidson or not, I didn't at the time. I was on my ZZR 1400, but I thought, sod Kawasaki. This is where the party's at. This is where I want to be. Right. So, but then as years went by, they got rid of that. They got rid of that element, and they went more and more to this corporate. Here's our dungeon of a place, and the bikes are all there, dimly lit, and we're gonna have people there standing around, and it's just naff. It's just boring. And you go there, and it's all overpriced stuff, and it's just like, what? And and you think, really. So this is what happens. You get to a point where you think, every year I come away from Motorcycle Live show and I think, I don't think I'll go there again. And the thing is, many people that are out there say the same thing, but I still go back every year, expecting that it would be a difference, hoping that it would be better, and hopefully it will. I'm always hopeful. I'm hopeful for an internal thing here. Here we go. TM13A. The older I get, the less I like crowds. You're right. I'm like, crowds kind of annoy me at times. It's almost like they get in my. Do you know what? I do sound like a old cantankerous old git, but if let's say I'm in town, we'll go into the shops or whatever, and it gets quite crowded, and people start crossing my path really quickly. And I'm having to cut up. That annoys the shit out of me. That really does annoy the hell out of me. Where people are just crossing your path, you're bumping into you, and you can't. I just want to walk. I just want it to be Moses and the parting of the waves, as it were. I just want me to be going through. And let my people go, or just let me go through there unhindered. That's what I want. I don't want people around me. But there we go. Mateo. Yeah, that's right. A German company. Sell the same thing. Half the price. However, since leaving Europe, we have to pay for the inputs, and now works out the same. Okay. I hadn't really. I haven't bought from Mateo in quite a while. In all fairness, so I couldn't say. I mean, there's a market here. One thing that's happened with this COVID thing, and not this COVID thing, the supply chain issue, also, but obviously the energy crisis issue. It's made governments certainly and companies and people stand up and realize that actually each individual company has got to be more self-sufficient. They've got to produce their own things. They've got to be whatever, in whatever form that is. So, in terms of the globalization of accessories, for example, in this case, motorcycle accessory for Harley Davidson, whatever, instead of getting your product from the United States or from Europe or whatever, You should have companies that are small companies, yes, whatever, who are building these things in this country. And I would much prefer to buy something that is made in and if they want to export it elsewhere, fine. But I want a company that is making this stuff in this country for us. Now, the problem is, will there be a market for them? Will they be able to survive? Whatever. But, you know, that kind of thing. That was part of the lawsuit. Harley dealers saying you couldn't use aftermarket and still keep the warranty. Absolutely right. And these are the things I've been saying for ages, a long, long time. And, you know, people didn't want to listen, they'd be whatever. And all the problems with the company, the problems with what they've been told. And guess what? Hey, all of a sudden, no smoke without fire. That's all I would say. Read another thing saying car companies buying up dealerships, so here will come the true monopolists. So this is something that was happening in the United States, and I touched on this, and I remarked on this a few weeks ago, where Ford Motor Company wanted to get rid of the dealerships because and this was kind of being talked about within the motor manufacturers industry, as it were, or collective, as it were. They say they want to get rid of dealerships because what's happening is that dealerships all around the world here are adding extra prices, extra inflating prices when they don't need to be. And Ford were finding that in some dealerships they were adding like $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 to the price of a vehicle, especially trucks and things like that. And I think it was some other vehicles as well. So for every good dealership, you're always going to get a bad dealership, right? And this was also talked about with Harley Davidson, and talks about, you know, with other motorcycle manufacturers and car manufacturers as well. They wanted to try and disrupt this dealership network, but the problem is with the dealership network, certainly in the United States, and I'm not sure about this around the world, there is something to do with local laws or state laws that prohibit the unfair treatment of dealerships as if a manufacturer came in and set up their own. And then they started talking about Tesla, and Tesla, for example, don't have dealerships. They have showrooms, they have galleries, let's say, what they call it. So you can, but most of it, everything that you can go to these places, showrooms, and, you know, ask about Tesla, you can see when, you can feel when, all that sort of stuff. But effectively, you buy it online, you buy it direct from the company. And that's what Ford want to do. They've started to do that already. In the United States, this is, you can have the option of buying it direct from the company. Now, how that works in terms of getting the vehicle service, getting it fixed, I do not know. I suppose there would be some kind of program where they would get it fixed by a local service center. Maybe they just set up their own service center network instead of a dealership network, you know. But there we go. We've become our dads. Well, that is very true. That is very true. But there we go. There we go. With him, when we said we just go to another dealer out of the state, and they removed all the BS from his price. Yeah, as I said, there's a lot of things. I mean, this has been talked about quite a while, in all fairness. And they talked about different countries have different rules and laws according to warranties. Okay, so, but the problem is, and I've noticed this myself, in small little things that I've had with my bike, with the Harley Davidson, right, is that you go into the dealership, and I have a lot of sympathy for the dealership in this respect, is that you go to the dealership and they'll say, some are very matter of fact to say, no, we're not dealing with that. There's no problem. We can't do that. But the reality is that you go into a dealership with a problem, if your bike is still under warranty, Harley Davidson, for example, and you'll say, there's a problem with this, I think it needs to be fixed under warranty. And they'll say, well, we're not really sure if we're going to be allowed to fix this or get the money back from Harley Davidson manufacturing, or get the approval to do this work. We have to kind of convince Harley Davidson. So it depends what that relationship is between you and the person at the desk at Harley Davidson dealership, whether they're going to try and fight your corner. Okay, so that's where sometimes it breaks down. Can they be bothered? You know, are they really on your side? All that sort of stuff. Then it's the fight or the relationship between the dealership and the manufacturer to see if this warranty is going to be approved. Okay, sometimes it's Mr. Blogs, Mr. Smith, no problem. This is covered under warranty. We'll sort it out straight away. Some dealerships will say, oh, no, this is not covered. Whereas another dealership would say, yeah, absolutely fine, no problem. We'll get this squared away for you, no problem whatsoever. So this is where this whole warranty discussion started coming in for a few years ago now. And then lots of people, and myself included, were saying, this is not right. This is not on. You can't have a situation where, you're actively encouraging people to make modifications and do this. This is your business model. This is what you do with Harley Davidsons, right? You modify them, and then all of a sudden it null and voids your warranty. So in the end, I was telling people, hey, whatever you do, buy yourself a Harley Davidson, great, love it, enjoy it, right? But whatever you do not substantially modify your motorcycle within the first 2 years, because you're seriously going to affect that warranty. And I also started saying, be very careful how you ride that motorcycle within the first couple of years, because your parts on it, if they wear out or whatever, let's say like the clutch, for example, it won't be replaced under warranty. So all that sort of stuff, so these are the things I was saying to people, and guess what? I was proven right. It was an unfair practice that Harley Davidson were imposing on people, but now we all know that after 2 years, but most people just start modifying the bike anyway. But after 2 years, most people are going to start modifying left, right, and center. But there we go. Listen, hey, I've gone on for about an hour and a half here, just going away. But listen, if you're watching this later, thanks for all the support. Thanks for watching, and indulging me in a sort of Sunday rant here. But what really gets your goat? What really annoys you about being a biker? Is it how other people ride? Is it how other people drive? Is it the nonsense, that's in the ether? The stuff that you hear from about manufacturers or dealerships, or the prices, or what is it that has become like the big issue for you? That is not necessarily that you're anti a brand or anti whatever it is, but it's just something that you just don't believe it anymore. You don't care for it. You're just not going to buy it. You're not going to buy this nonsense anymore. What is it? Let us know in the comments below. But listen, it's been emotional. All I can say is, thanks for all the support. You can still support. We're doing that super chat, super stickers, and after the video, after the live stream, you for watching this back, super thanks. You can go to the website, revelatoralf.com, and see all the information there. You can do all that. But all I can say now is, it's time for me to go and do something else, and time for you guys to go and do something else as well. But it's been emotional. It's been a nice hour and a half spending with you, shooting the breeze and talking about stuff that really annoys me, and you, hopefully. Catch you again. Ta-da. That was the wrong one.